Hi, we are here with Anan. Hello, Anan.
Hello, Ido.
And he was our photographer in Photokina 2016. And last year he had a chance to visit the Sigma factory in Japan, and he's going to tell us a bit about it. So, how did you get to the factory?
By train.
Oh, okay.
No.
But seriously, I mean, how this all came about?
Photokina 2016, we had the honor of meeting Sigma's CEO, Mr. Kazuto Yamaki, who tends to come personally to stuff and talk freely. Really very nice person. And knowing I'm a big fan of Japan, he said I should totally come and visit. So fast forward 2000, end of 2017, getting married, going to Sakura honeymoon in Japan.
Okay.
And decided to see if that invitation was kind of still on. So I emailed asking if there is anything interesting to see in Japan in Sigma's area, and the invitation was still on. So I convinced my wife to do something different and go to Fukushima Prefecture, north of Tokyo.
Fukushima?
Yes, very radiant this time of the year.
Okay. Isn't this dangerous?
No. Basically, the disaster was east of, on the east shore of Japan, 80 plus kilometers away from Aizuwakamatsu, which is the capital of Fukushima Prefecture, where Sigma factory is located at.
Okay, so you basically traveled there and went to the factory.
Yes, we've also seen things around, not very touristic area, so it seems not many people go there. Samurai City, really recommended. Best sake in Japan.
Okay. So did you both get the factory tour of the Sigma factory?
Yes, but not just, joining people, going on the tour, recordings. No. We got the VIP stuff.
Oh, really?
It started with the small details. As you might know, Ido and I are Israeli. English is not our mother tongue, but Sigma knew it. And it started by the small things of getting inside the factory, and you have the entrance floor, which is a huge lobby, and all the people there, secretaries and stuff, they get up and they bow to us.
Really?
Japanese culture, amazing. And we were led, with all due respect, to a meeting room where my wife noticed that they had an Israeli and Japanese flag waiting for us there.
Just for you?
Just for us. And we met there, not just anyone, the chief of the technical support of Sigma, to introduce the company to us and the story, which, if you're interested, I will tell you later. Okay. Or we can put a link just here, I think, for the story of Sigma.
Somewhere, okay.
Yeah, and after that, we put lab coats and we put hats, and we didn't put goggles and we didn't put masks.
So you didn't do this for the entire tour?
No goggles, no mask. We didn't go into the clean rooms because this takes a lot of stuff, but otherwise we went through metalworking, glassworking, chemical stuff, and regardless of where we went, there were no weird smells, there was nothing dangerous, there was no problem. We just went lab coats and hats through the whole factory, not including one area, which is a new area to the factory, where they don't just do lenses, they do cameras, and they started producing magnesium parts, flammable, happy stuff.
Okay, so tell me, how do you get from, you mentioned metal and glass, how do you get from metal and glass to, a lens?
Okay, I will start by saying that you'll put probably pictures and videos, but
yeah, sure.
The production floor of this factory, if you're into metalworking, if you're into glassworking, if you're into tinkering, Vikings, they kill each other, they go to Valhalla. Tinkerers will go to places like Sigma.
Okay.
You have everything there. You have things that cut metal, mill metal, bore into metal, fold metal. If you can do this to metal, they have that machine, and they have many of that machine.
Okay.
Same goes for glass, same goes for plastics. Basically, they do almost everything in-house. They get glass, roughly shaped lens like glass mostly from Hoya, which
Okay.
you are familiar with.
Yeah.
And glass, for example, go through three stages. They call all stages polishing, but one of them is very rough, giving it the shape of the glass. Then they go through sanding into the finer shape, and then they go to final polishing and coating.
There is cutting, I think, somewhere in the middle.
I guess.
Yeah.
I've seen big machines and I saw lots of glass dust, which I was curious to ask, what are they doing with all that glass sand? And because Sigma are a local company that works with local firms and everything is done locally, I mean, this is 100% made in Japan. Made,
Everything? Every
assembled,
component?
Every single component is made in Japan. Sigma works in circles, so if they cannot produce something in-house, they will get it from Aizuwakamatsu. If they cannot get it from Aizuwakamatsu, they will get it from somewhere in Fukushima or Japan. But that's it. This is the playing ground. Sorry. And we were at glass. So they go through polishing, they go through coating, they go through cementing, which is like putting glass elements that will not move separately in separate glass elements together.
Okay.
They will do grouping if we know the
Yeah,
lens.
obviously a lens has several groups of
Yes.
elements inside and they need to move together basically.
Yes, so they do the grouping and that's about it for glass. Metal, they get large chunks of aluminum about this size and they go through all kinds of treatments, cutting, boring, milling, whatever. Then they get the nice black finish and also some of the parts get prints printed on.
Of course.
Silk printing, if I remember correctly. Inside the lens, you also get all areas of sliding stuff. So to minimize friction, they will use brass. So we have like large rolls of brass and stamping machine to get parts off. And then these brass parts get silver coating to protect them and make them live even longer. They make aspheric elements there. They make
The spheric elements obviously, I mean, they're made from glass or from something else?
I think they are made from something which is not exactly glass.
Okay.
And they produce plastic parts also. And when you say plastic parts, it means they have the molds which are produced in-house. And then you have robots that do the plastic things and take them off and work.
We'll talk about robotics in a second.
Yes.
But they also have the motors. Yeah, I mean, we're talking autofocus lenses. So the motors, do they make them themselves or?
No, the motors are the only thing I think that they get completely finished from outside. It's ultrasonic motors, USM. These, I don't know which is the maker, but they get the motors from some Japanese maker. Also, Japan.
Okay. And you mentioned plastic parts. So inside the lens, outside, I think most lenses are made out of metal, but inside you have some components which are made out of plastic. Yeah.
I've seen different plastic parts being molded and moved by robots there. So I suppose some interior elements may or may not be made of plastic.
Okay. And there is a lot of QA in this process.
Yes, every single step of the way. I mean, especially for the metal parts, they have stations there with something which looks like a big robotic arm and laser. And this is like the old school caliber we use.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So they do all of that with a laser beam. They test circumference, they test the cutting depth, they test that the circuit is perfect, they test every single piece.
And everything, basically every lens, every part of every lens is tested?
I'm not sure they will do it for every single part of
But
the
at
batch.
least for some of
but every batch is tested.
Okay.
So you can assume that this test has been run through the QA operation several times along the way before being assembled.
This lens, of course.
Each and every
Yeah.
lens.
Okay.
And to make things even more interesting, when they're done assembling, we've found two large tanks with windows, some of them,
Okay.
which are made to abuse the lenses. So they have one tank that will abuse the lenses by shaking them, and you have another tank that will abuse the lenses by extremely high or extremely low temperatures, which at the end means that if you go to the North Pole or to the South Pole with your team to take a movie or a documentary or whatever, your team may die, your lens won't.
But this is done to all of the lenses or just to some of them?
As far as I understand, it's done to all lenses, but different thresholds. Obviously, the cheap lenses are not supposed to be operatable at minus 20 centigrade, but all their it's part of the QA, so to speak.
Okay.
I mean, if they tell you that something is supposed to operate in certain conditions,
they will test it.
They have that thing to abuse the lens and test it and make sure it still works afterwards.
And after the QA, you have the final, we're talking about QA of the parts. After that, you have the final assembly of the lens, so all the components go together. This is a manual thing. I mean, people actually build the whole thing by hand.
The final assembly, as far as I know, in the clean rooms, which we have seen from outside, is manual with lots of testing. But many of the parts are actually manufactured by robots. I mean, the factory itself, speaking of Japanese culture, we need to say there is something about Japanese culture called kaoshi, or kill me later about saying it wrong, but dying of overwork.
Yeah.
Japanese people work a lot. Sigma is different. Sigma doesn't lay off. Sigma doesn't overwork people. They work in shifts. Some part of the factory are working 24 hours a day.
But in several shifts.
In shifts again. And the reason is simple. Robots do not replace humans. Robots work 24 hours a day. They produce more and more, which Sigma wants to do to produce as much as possible. And basically you have lots of people not just to operate the robots, but also to keep up with them, producing the manual parts.
Yeah. For each lens has some components which are made or designed or built or assembled by robots, but the other parts need to be assembled by hand, by people.
And you need people to keep up with the robots, so production can move on.
Okay. So how many people work in the factory?
Actually, Sigma is made of two places.
Okay.
We have the factory. In Aizuwakamatsu, which is 1,400 people.
Okay.
Again, working in shifts.
Okay.
Could mention actually the mess hall. We had lunch in the factory.
What do they eat there?
Actually, we had some very nice food, Japanese food, but very nice stuff, all kinds of stuff. And
this is true Japanese stuff. It's not Japanese food. It's not something that they specifically made for you or something.
No. Yeah. It's a mess hall enough for 600 people at once.
Wow.
So, despite being huge, they still have 1,400 people, so they have shifts for lunch as well. Now, there is also the headquarters, where most of the R&D is done, most engineers are, which is in Kawasaki.
Okay, so it's what, a few hours drive or something like that?
Yeah, it's if you consider Fukushima is a few hundreds of kilometers north of Tokyo, Kawasaki is to the south.
Ah, okay.
And if we're mentioning that about Sigma, it would be also interesting to say that Sigma consider themselves a lean and mean company in the sense that they have very thin overhead of management. Most of the Kawasaki headquarters is like 75% are engineers. People who actually work producing stuff for the company, not just managing. And most of the 1,400 people in the factory are also producing things.
Obviously. So yeah, it's a family. It's a family company. It began with the father of.
Yes, and it's worth saying also that Sigma itself has an interesting story. It wasn't founded because someone wanted to have the dream. Actually, Yamaki Senior was working for an optics company in Tokyo, and that company went down.
Okay, went bankrupt basically. Yeah.
I don't remember the exact details, but they decided to close. And like great companies happen to work, there are people depending on that company, suppliers and such.
Do you remember when this happened? In the 50s, 60s, something like that?
I think early 17th, 60s. Okay. You can see it in the text below. We have more details written down, but basically the suppliers came to Yamaki Senior saying, if you're going down, we are going down also. You need to do something. And to help the suppliers, basically, he started his own company, optics company, called it Sigma. And in a way, it's a community story. It's about helping people and creating something new to give people work.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, a lot of the company Sigma is also doing a lot of outsourcing to the neighborhood, to the small companies around.
Yes, and also another interesting story. You can find it elsewhere, basically. Some people wrote it very eloquently. Sigma started off in Tokyo and moved away to Kawasaki and Aizuwakamatsu, basically first to Aizuwakamatsu, because Sigma couldn't get many employees around Tokyo. The big names had the most engineers, and they were looking for some other place to find good people. One of the engineers in Sigma came and said, look, I'm coming from this place called Aizuwakamatsu, and we have good people there, serious people, hardworking people. You should totally go there and meet them. And it worked. Actually, Yamaki Sr. went to Aizuwakamatsu and sat there and talked to people. I don't know the precise story, but the story going online said after a night of a lot of sake or other kind of booze, he actually made a promise to start
a company
there. And it started with a single person working on the metal press, producing parts, just one person. And I guess he did a very good job because Sigma ended up buying a large piece of land there and making a factory, not the one I've seen, but
it is the one that you have seen is the newer factory, right?
Is the modern building at the same place. I mean, they started, they made the factory and it evolved into that modern place we visited.
Okay. And there were places inside the factory that you couldn't, or they told you that you can't go in and photograph or see?
Photograph anywhere I wanted, basically.
Okay.
Answered all the questions I have, and if our tour guide didn't have the precise answer, there would be an engineer working nearby to give a more precise answer. We did not get into the clean rooms, as I said before, and we did not visit the magnesium alloy work area. Again, it's dangerous. Yeah. Highly flammable, heavy stuff.
None of these are problematic in terms of actually seeing, proprietary stuff or stuff that they didn't want to show you. It's
either they have very few secrets, or I'm not smart enough to recognize them.
I guess that a lot of it is in the R&D department.
Probably.
Where you weren't, you were not there at all.
Let's put it honestly, once you have this in hand, I guess you can take it apart and reverse engineer it. So I didn't see...
I can't, but maybe...
I didn't see anything too secret. I just saw... I mean, if I was into working this kind of work, I would love to work there.
Yeah, it sounds very, very, very interesting. So apart from the factory itself, you were, I think, you took some tour in the neighboring area?
Yes.
You mentioned it before, I think.
Yes. Sigma have been giving us the VIP treatment, seriously. So we went around Aizuwakamatsu mostly. We've been to the Samurai Castle. We've been to a sake distillery. And honestly, it was the first time I saw rice on a plant, not just in bags. And we saw how sake is being produced, and we also drank some. And I mean, my big favorite is not sake, is actually umeshu, and they had that too.
Happy drinking. Okay, so it sounds like a fantastic visit. I mean, can people, can our viewers, if they happen to be in Japan, can they go themselves to the factory? Is they open to visitations or something?
I don't know if they have organized tours. You can always go to Sigma's site and check. But I could wholeheartedly recommend visiting Aizuwakamatsu.
Okay.
Again, for many reasons, especially during Sakura season, it's gorgeous. You can put some of our pictures there and viewers will see them. Amazing.
Okay, thank you very much, Anan.
Thank you, though.